Suicide is the leading cause of death of men under 50 in the UK. 3 times as many women attempt suicide. Last year, 800,000 people committed suicide around the world. That's almost equivalent to the entire population of the country Bhutan. Since 1999, suicide rates have risen by 30% and deaths from drug overdose by a staggering 415%. Life expectancy is falling, not rising. We live in a society that reinforces our separateness, I versus other. We began this journey to address one of the most important questions we could ask ourselves. How do we prevent millions of us dying by our own hands and go on to live more fulfilled lives? We have a solution that profoundly alters the way in which we view ourselves, how we view others, and more importantly, our relationship to the whole. 1 in 4 of us takes a prescribed drug for our mental health and feel always or often lonely. We have no tangible solution to this devastating epidemic. More and more of us are taking prescribed drugs for our mental health. Yet the numbers of us dying from suicide and addiction is also rising at an incredible rate. We're in the middle of a relational and societal and emotional epidemic. We urgently need a tangible solution. Talk about finance, the economy, and interest rates and GDP constantly. We're failing to recognize that the leading cause of us dying is ourselves. A shocking 85% of people who took part in the survey said that they hate their jobs. People are seeking escape to deal with this serious dis-ease with their daily lives and somewhere where we spend so much of our time. And it's little wonder if 85% of people hate their jobs and we're in this epidemic of disconnection. We need an escape. Like, how do we cope? How do we cope with life? This inability to cope with our emotions is at the core. So in order to cope, we eat it, we drink it, we smoke it, we snort it, we spend it, we inject it, we hurt it, we sleep with it. We'll do whatever we can to escape that emotional disturbance. It's just not working. The numbers of us turning to the most readily available drug in our bars and pubs and clubs, alcohol. Doctors in the UK are saying it's also an epidemic. The number of people coming in with liver disease and serious liver problems, even at a young age, because of the binge drinking culture and the way to cope, is rising at an astronomical rate. We are in a chronic state of disconnection from the natural world in these urban centres that we've created, disconnection from other people and our relationship to them. I live in London. I should be connected to people here, right? And the reality is, if there's not an authentic connection, I can feel lonely no matter how many people I'm surrounded by. Disconnection from meaningful work, disconnection from hope, from security, disconnection from being, from life. We, like many others, believe that this disconnection is fatal and is the foundations of the astronomical upsurge in the number of deaths through suicide and addiction. Based on extensive research and our own experiences, more importantly, the inability to cope with emotional disturbance, which is at the core of this epidemic, and its foundations are in disconnectedness. Unlike our hunter-gatherer ancestors who had to forage for food constantly and look out for threats, we live in a society of excess. Never has it been so easy to have our basic needs met. Thank you Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Amazon, Ocado. All of these things have enabled us to get food on demand without very little trouble at all. So we're left with all this time. Now, what do we do with that time? Something profound, right? The agricultural revolution left farmers without jobs. The industrial revolution left workers without jobs. There are whole areas devastated by the ripple effect this caused. This shattered families and communities and whole cities. There are many examples of where this can be seen, and it's just been an upsurge in crime and addiction and death, which left their communities, their families, and their identities shattered. The current internet age has left shopping malls in massive decline, and high street retail is really suffering. And this has just led to another instance of disconnection, another instance of we're moving away from public gatherings to something of isolation. As the late and great Stephen Hawking said, artificial intelligence is going to be either the best or worst thing for humankind. The big question is, what happens to our purpose? What do we fill our time with? In a recent study, 79% of people with depression said that they felt better after completing a task, no matter how average or boring the task may have been, the sense of accomplishing something. We use technology fundamentally to make an aspect of our lives easier, so we don't have to focus on the boring stuff. However, if we start removing all of that from our lives and we're filled with this void, one would think objectively do great, amazing things with our lives. There's more self-destructive behaviors on our own rather than constructive behaviors for others. We have to fill our time with something, right? Our society has become one of this materialistic autopilot in which we go through life unquestioningly motivated by fear, by extrinsic values, i.e. doing something because it will impress someone else, or I'm not going to feel enough until I have this thing. We are in the middle of the attention economy where everyone's vying for your attention and it's the highest bidder that gets it. Those 5,000 ads per day say to us that we are not complete in some way until we have a product or service they are offering. I understand the irony of me asking for your time right now. It is scientifically proven that more stuff doesn't buy us happiness, yet we still try. This has led to disparity being at an all-time high, where the world's richest 8 people, i.e. Zuckerberg, Bezos, Ortega, own as much in wealth as the poorest 3.85 billion of humanity. That's half the world's population. 8 billionaires own as much as half of the world's population. It's an absolute societal shitstorm, and the game we're playing was meant to be this way, with the gradual breakdown of family units and an attitude of oneself versus the world in this zero-sum game of life means that we're all clamoring over each other to get our share in this competitive society that was born out of our own inherent flaws. And as a result, we are feeling lonelier than ever before. When surveyed, people with depression and that had attempted suicide had a real feeling insecurity, like no one has our back. We can't be real with anyone. We're supposed to be this person society and media imposes on us. We're in this hamster wheel. This has led to a decline in honesty and vulnerability. We went from large family units with extended family to just the family units and the 2.4 kids to our 200 square feet apartments by ourselves. No wonder. I studied as an architect for a long time, and I took more time designing some toilets than I have my own life. From a very young age, we're taught to clamor over the kid next to us to get better grades. We are rewarded in this competitive race. Life skills and designing our lives has been left to chance. No wonder that this very early foundation of our lives has led to the society at which disparity is at an all-time high from a very young age. I, self, ego. This attitude has only fueled wealth disparity, lack of empathy and honesty and vulnerability, because we've promoted this individualistic approach to life. No one's there for us permanently. Love is but a transaction. I'll be there if you do this. Let's just cling on to each other so we don't have to face the void and the emptiness and the loneliness. We've also added another word to love, unconditional. The love we see today is more of a transactional nature. Play the role I want you to. Doing something for someone else and expecting absolutely nothing in return has been the most rewarding experiences of my life, period. Tribe elder would carve the path out and say, these are the berries you should eat. Now, don't go to that cave, there's a bear in there. Or saber-toothed tiger, I don't know, are saber-toothed tigers around? Anyway, there's a bear in that cave, you should not go there. And other things. And I know this from my own experience. Someone just to say, you'll be okay, you'll get through this, I went through this, I'm absolutely okay, this will pass. I struggled with that too. It was devastating, but I got through it. Can literally be the matter of life or death. This societal shift, almost a revolution in the way that we think, a counterculture to amend the way that we think and we relate to each other. This is so we can create whole and authentic connections with other human beings. History and study it, we can help it from happening again. The statistics of kids dying from starvation, the images from Syria that we've seen in a way desensitized to, a surrender to the higher systems that govern us, to say that it's okay. This idea of us versus them is a lack of empathy. So how do we enable people to build genuine empathy? Us humans feel better after connecting with nature. I know myself, if I'm in a park, I feel like I get perspective. The world's so big and I'm just a part of it. And I breathe in the air that the trees give out and I'm a cog in the system. I was reading an article recently that said that parks were becoming more and more difficult to get to with the rise of urban centres and development. It's no wonder we're feeling a little bit gloomy. But there seems to be a mass global awakening with the rise of minimalism, the increase in yoga classes, in meditation apps and classes. Us collectively moving away from our worship of the rational mind. And it just spells out this shift with a questioning of values, extrinsic values, and more importantly, the technology has led us to see the data at its purest and to say it's not working. Recently valued at $1 billion plus and topping Apple's apps chart, Calm and Headspace, the meditation apps, have done incredibly well and reaching $1 billion plus valuation within a few years pre-IPO. Again, questioning this praising of the rational mind that we have been doing so long, and just to be, and just to breathe, do something as simple. They've made $1 billion of something as simple as reminding us to breathe. Many of us are seeing through the illusion of satisfying materialism and questioning these junk values that we've been fed for so long without questioning them. What's a world I want to leave behind? What's a world you want to leave behind?